As criticism pours in, President Barack Obama defends the Iran nuclear deal. How soft spinal implants are restoring movement to paralyzed limbs. And a reality TV star and former Olympic athlete gets an award and a standing ovation. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Lina Hormoudou. This is Africa 54. Vincent Makori is off today. We'll have those stories in a moment, but first, an early morning drone strike in south-central Somalia has destroyed a vehicle belonging to Al-Shabaab militants, according to officials and residents. The car, which was believed to be carrying militants, was hit just outside the town of Bardere, which Al-Shabaab captured from government forces in 2009. Officials say Somali forces and the African Union-led peacekeeping force, known as AMISOM, have been advancing on the area in recent days. The area is a strategic stronghold of the Islamist terror group. Militants in the Sinai Peninsula are taking credit Thursday for firing a missile that struck an Egyptian naval vessel in the Mediterranean Sea about a mile offshore. Firefighters worked for more than 3 hours to put out the fire aboard the vessel. The Sinai province of the Islamic State claimed in a Twitter announcement that they destroyed the Navy vessel and killed the entire crew. But an Egyptian military spokesman said on Facebook there were some injuries but no death aboard the damaged ship. U.S. President Barack Obama is defending the Iran nuclear deal as criticism continues to pour in from both Republican and Democratic members of Congress, who will spend the next 2 months reviewing the details of the agreement. VOA White House correspondent Luis Ramirez reports.
President Obama went before reporters Wednesday with a robust defense, ready to fight attacks that seem to be coming from all angles over a deal he called historic.
With this deal, we have the possibility of peacefully resolving a major threat to regional and international security. Without a deal, we risk even more war in the Middle East.
The deal aims to limit Iran's nuclear program and cut off all of Iran's pathways to developing a nuclear weapon. But critics of the deal say limiting Iran's nuclear program is not enough to stop Iran from eventually developing a nuclear bomb. Republican Senator John McCain.
It only pauses Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons, and instead, as the original intent was to prevent them, now it's just a matter of time.
There is also opposition from some members of Mr. Obama's own party and tough questions from reporters. Mr. Obama reacted angrily when a correspondent asked him if he was content with the fanfare surrounding the deal, while Iran continues to hold 4 Americans as prisoners.
The notion that I'm content as I celebrate with American citizens languishing in Iranian jails, Major, that's nonsense, and you should know better.
President Obama says there is no doubt that Iran will continue to be a challenge for the United States, but he hopes to convince Americans that this deal is better than no deal at all. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, at the White House.
World powers need to take a number of steps to accomplish what's set forth in the Iran nuclear agreement after years of negotiations. Now that experts have been able to examine the 150-page agreement between Iran and a group of 6 nations led by the United States, they are starting to analyze the deal. VOA's Caroline Presutti takes a look at what has to happen globally for the agreement to take hold.
18 days in Vienna, and now this. Smiles, small talk, and congratulations after an historic agreement between 6 countries and Iran. And on the streets of Tehran, this. Here's what has to happen next for the world to celebrate. First, the United States. Congress has 60 days to approve the deal. Republicans don't like it.
The deal empowers Iran. It makes the world less safe by paving Iran's path to the bomb.
And some prominent Democrats are opposed, but the president could veto any legislation rejecting the accord. Ironically, it's similar to what has to happen in Iran. Analyst Robert Einhorn spoke via Skype.
I'm sure there will be hardliners in Iran that will oppose this deal. and it will be up to the supreme leader to essentially to lay down the law to overrule them and go forward with implementation.
Sanctions aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear capabilities have crippled the economy, cutting oil exports in half. But following Tuesday's accord, diplomats at the United Nations are reviewing a resolution to lift sanctions. A Security Council vote is expected next week to possibly take effect by year's end. If Tehran violates the accord's terms, sanctions would snap into place. But if Iran complies, the six world powers present in Vienna would lift a different set of sanctions, unfreezing billions of dollars.
I think the EU will quickly agree to do sanctions from there, and the president can waive sanctions for some time. But, you know, it doesn't detract from your general point that this is a very complicated agreement. Implementation will be difficult, even with the best of will on all sides.
The deal continues the arms embargo for 5 more years and the missile ban for 8. But could end them earlier if certain conditions are met.
So by time this agreement expires, looking out in the long, distant future from now, there will be no restrictions on any aspect of Iranian behavior. And for Iran, that's not a bad deal.
Iran's ability to keep and acquire uranium, however, would be greatly reduced. Meanwhile, inspections of Iran's nuclear facilities are expected to intensify in coming months. Carolyn Presutti, VOA News, Washington.
Now to Uganda, where a new plan is helping communities in rural areas work smarter. Here to tell us more is Esther Gitui-Ewert. Esther?
Yes, Uganda is working hard to reduce poverty in rural areas by helping families share responsibilities and plan their workload better through a household mentoring program. The program, which has been implemented in 13 districts in the country, is now helping an estimated 20,000 families. Boasts of serene beauty, cool weather and a leafy green setting, thanks to the Nile River that makes the region so fertile for farming. But in this beautiful setting also lies poverty and untold suffering. 52-year-old Joseph Tilibita has 3 wives and 15 children. 5 years ago, he was unable to provide for his large family. The situation was so dire that 2 of his wives left him. But thanks to the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, that is now in the past. Tilibita is busy tilling his farm where he now grows bananas, cassava, maize and beans, as well as other food crops. Tilibita and his wife Irene Nagobi are in a training session with their mentor Sarah Ndikuliwange. Since 2010, Sarah has been making regular visits to the family to provide ideas on how they can work better together and develop their lives.
The type of training we do is to promote sharing of activities. Everyone takes responsibility to do all things around the house. Whether it is farming, feeding the children, or taking them to school, everyone is involved.
The project has trained more than 600 mentors, and each one is responsible for 10 families. Part of Sarah's work is to educate families on sanitation, family planning, and better farming techniques. Joseph and his wife Nangobi now work together. They have increased their farming area and have enough food to eat, sell, and even send their children to school.
Before we started working together, even if we had some money, it was not used to cover basic necessities. But now I know how much money we have, and we decide together on what to use it for.
Through household mentoring, over 90% of these families have improved the quality of their lives. IFAD's Uganda Country Program Manager says the mentoring program is working well.
These are really the households that do not make to be reached by other development interventions. And therefore, it has become a very important tool for IFAD to be able to reach out to those poorest households.
Similar to other African communities, Ugandan women are relegated to the back seat when family decisions are made. Their workload is excessive, and often these gender inequalities are part of the reason why many families remain poor. Plans are now being made to replicate the program in other parts of Uganda. Now, given the success of this program, one can only hope IFAD will extend the program to other countries of Africa. Lenore?
Great stories there. Thank you so much, Esther. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a new device that could one day restore movement to people who are paralyzed. Stay with us.
Health news and notes. This is Living Better.
Over 350 million people worldwide suffer from hearing loss, but a new app called USound can turn a smartphone into a digital hearing tool, and it optimizes a smartphone's audio output to an individual's personal hearing needs. Users like Julio Fernandez say it helps them reconnect with the world.
I had totally and completely isolated myself from society. I wouldn't go out with friends. I wouldn't go out and see them.
The USound app enables a smartphone to capture conversations in real time and compensates the sound or recorded audio for the user, just like a hearing aid. Dr. Victorio Stock.
I just don't think it works. I can confirm it works. We're already using it with our patients.
The USound app is not free. It costs about $30 a year, but has customers already in some 150 countries. I'm Martin Seacrest for VOA's Living Better.
Wherever you are, Voice of America is on air, reaching more than 130 million weekly, worldwide, in more than 40 languages. Online, social media, and breaking news from around the world. On the go, dozens of new features on popular platforms with new apps and trending topics. Voice of America, on air, online, on the go.
The United Nations and the World Bank Group have launched a $1.2 billion fund to invest in healthcare for mothers and children in developing countries as part of a drive to end their preventable death by 2030. The global financing facility will provide capital for poor countries to develop their healthcare systems and collect better data on birth and death. Partners include Norway, the United States, the private sector, and nonprofits. Child mortality has plunged since the UN set a development goal of reducing under age 5 death worldwide by 2/3 in the last decade. Maternal mortality had dropped by 45% since 1990. Yet the mortality rate in poorer countries is still 14 times higher than in the developed world. Jim Young Kim is president of the World Bank Group.
The global financing facility unifies resources from international donors, the private sector, and developing countries with a goal to end preventable maternal and child deaths by 2030. It has the flexibility to finance investments in other sectors, such as education, water, and sanitation, if they have a significant impact on our goal. And the GFF uses innovative financing mechanisms to increase funding for national strategies that will improve women's and children's health.
And some 190 nations hope to agree on how to bankroll 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The SDGs, expected to be adopted in September, are estimated to cost between $3.3 and $4.5 trillion a year. Now, the Rollback Malaria Partnership recently released a new strategies to guide efforts toward malaria elimination by 2030. Progress in the fight against malaria since 2000 has resulted in a 58% reduction in malaria mortality. More than 6.2 million malaria deaths have been averted between 2001 and 2015. However, malaria remains a major cause of death in developing countries. The WHO estimates that there will be 214 million cases of malaria infection in 2015, claiming the lives of approximately 472,000 people, the majority of them African children under age 5. Experts say malaria reduction and elimination will be critical to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. 500,000 people suffer spinal cord injuries each year due to car accidents, serious falls, and diseases, according to the World Health Organization. Researchers are now working on a soft but strong spinal cord implant that could one day restore movement in paralyzed individuals. VOA's Maya Pujara reports.
6 weeks ago, this rat was unable to move. Its spinal cord completely severed, but it's walking today, held upright by a harness. Scientists in Switzerland developed an implant that supplies the rat's damaged spine with chemical and electrical stimulation. That heals the nerves and restores movement. Stephanie Lacour, an assistant professor at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, tested the implant and saw encouraging results.
By combining this electrochemical stimulation of the spinal cord tissue, we then tested whether or not we could restore locomotion in the hind limbs. And this is what we found, is that indeed we can, using this technology, we were able over weeks of time to stimulate the spinal cord in spinal cord injured animals and allow them to walk.
This new implant, called E-Dura, is a flexible solution to inflamed tissue and damage caused by older technology. Stiff implants, which rubbed against the outermost layer of the rat's spinal cord.
We wanted an implant that could stay quite some time in vivo without inducing any detrimental effect. And so the first question we asked was, is soft making a difference?
She says it is. E-Dura is made of soft, stretchy but strong silicone that has two unique features. A microchannel allows researchers to inject drugs directly to the surface of the spinal cord for chemical stimulation, and stretchable platinum electrodes connected by gold tracks make the implant able to withstand big twists and turns as it stimulates spinal cord nerves electrically. E-Dura only restores involuntary movement. For the rat to be able to walk without a harness, the regenerated spinal cord nerves need to talk to the motor cortex, the part of the brain that controls voluntary movement.
There's no link at the moment between the brain, so the motor command, and the actual stimulation pattern on the spinal cord. So we now also have to find a way to link the two so that the person will think about moving and indeed the stimulation will be synchronized.
Creating this link in rats may be the next big leap in making E-Dura a safe and effective treatment for people who are bound to their wheelchairs, waiting to move again. Maya Pajara, VOA News, Washington.
Now, the U.S. Space Agency, NASA, has presented some of the images of Pluto taken from a spacecraft as it passed by the dwarf planet on Tuesday. New Horizons took a decade to make the 3 billion-mile journey through our solar system to make the closest approach ever to Pluto. Zlatica Hoke reports that the historic high-resolution photographs will help scientists learn more about how the solar system was formed and possibly about the development of life on Earth.
The close-up photos of Pluto were taken as New Horizons flew by at a speed of nearly 50,000 kilometers per hour. NASA scientists say the images provide information they previously did not have about the outer edge of our solar system.
We have found that at least parts of Pluto are very young. They don't have any craters that you'd expect on an old surface. So Pluto is active in the interior. It is generating landscapes by processes we don't understand yet.
The spacecraft sent one of the most exciting images of Pluto even before the flyby Tuesday. The close-up photo brings to focus once blurry areas, such as the one called the planet's heart. NASA scientists say Pluto's topography of mountains and water was not what they expected.
So these mountains are rising out of a relatively smooth terrain, which in and of itself is surprising also, because we would have thought maybe there'd be more craters on that part or across the whole thing. And the mountains are rising up to a height of about 11,000 feet. This is just astounding.
Scientists say it is going to take them more than a year to research the images, but what they have seen in just the first few hours has changed previous conceptions about Pluto. The New Horizons team is thrilled that the spacecraft did not suffer any damaging crashes with moons around Pluto. The close-up images of the largest one, Charon, also provide surprising information.
We look at Charon and we find, the thing doesn't have enough craters on it. It must be active. It must have, in the recent past, this tiny little world, just the size of Texas, has canyons longer than the Grand Canyon on it, created by tectonics.
The United States is the first nation to reach Pluto. With this latest space mission, it has visited every planet in our solar system. Zlatica Hope, VOA News, Washington.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Caitlyn Jenner steals the show at the ESPY Awards. We'll be right back.
Your Excellency.
Facility represents our due mother.
But what was seen on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here is what's trending. Kardashians and Jenners were out in full force to cheer on Caitlyn Jenner as she received the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPYs, noting her powerful celebrity platform. The 1976 Olympic decathlon champion and current reality TV star vowed to do whatever I can to reshape the landscape of how transgender people are viewed and treated. Quote, the 65-year-old told the audience about transgender teenagers who are bullied, beaten up, murdered, or killed themselves. Jenner rocked a white Versace gown and emerald earrings to the ceremony. Next up, the Hana Hotel in southern Japan is about to open and its robot staff are ready. There is one at the reception to welcome and check guests in, another to carry bags and operate a locker room. There are other technological innovations in the hotel. Facial recognition will allow guests to enter the room without the hassle of carrying around a hotel key. Inside the room itself, a robot responds to guests' commands to set alarms or adjust the light. The radiation panels installed in each room will automatically raise or lower the room temperature to a comfortable level for guests by detecting their body heat. And finally, a first look at a superhero team-up with a twist. Warner Brothers has released the first trailer of the Batman spin-off Suicide Squad, offering an initial glimpse of OC Comics' band of anti-heroes after footage was leaked online from last week's major comics fan convention, Comic.con International. The film, which sees a number of imprisoned villains grouped together to form a Black Ops team, stars Hollywood actors Will Smith, Jared Leto, Ben Affleck, Viola Davis, as well as model Cara Delevingne. Suicide Squad is scheduled for release next summer, and that's what's trending today. Audiobooks have traditionally been around for decades, used in schools, libraries, and on smart devices. In Lagos, Nigeria, a young graduate has found his niche, converting hard copy publications into audiobooks to enable people to learn on the go. VOA's Paul Ndio has more.
Tukuchu Nikocha walks into the studio to record the latest offerings in his audiobooks project. As the producer fixes audio levels, Nikocha reads through today's signed pages. He runs a Genetic Consult, a company that is converting hard copy publications into audiobooks.
God be trusted. Is he really faithful? Is he as faithful today as he was in the olden days? But you cannot rush God to do anything. Once he says what he will do, you can be sure he will do it. The second thing you need is patience.
Nikocha's company has been producing audiobooks for the last 4 years. They convert between 50 to 100 books a year. Depending on the length of the book, the process can take about 8 to 10 hours to complete.
Our challenge now is to move our content online, develop a robust online platform where people can access it as MP3 downloads, and also get more books done in audio without having the cost of doing that prohibitive to the authors.
Nigeria has a rich literary history with many internationally acclaimed authors calling the country home. Writers like a playwright and Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka often interact with the local students and the young writers. Balin Ihondo is a teacher and lives in Lagos. She often listens to audiobooks when she's at home, and she has made them part of her daily routine.
I like to listen to this whilst I'm at home and doing my chores, because it's like killing two birds with one stone. So I'm doing my house chores, which I have limited time to do, and I'm also adding value to myself.
But the publishing industry here still faces many challenges. Access to books is still difficult compared to other parts of the world. Books are not as readily available, especially in rural areas, and where they can be found, they are often too expensive. Entrepreneurs like Nikocho are hoping to make books more exciting and accessible to many more Nigerians. The audiobooks cost between $13 to $18. Analysts say while audiobooks have been in existence around the world for many years now, they are an innovative addition to Nigeria's literary space that enthusiasts believe will inspire more people to embrace a greater reading culture in the country. Paul Ndiho, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Welcome to Voice of America's News Words, where we teach you about words in the news.
When the George W. Bush Presidential Library opened in Texas, all of the living U.S. presidents, past and present, gathered for the ceremony.
One of the things that the Presidential Library's opening demonstrates, in many ways, is an end to the administration. This is really the last thing that he's going to do as president of this administration, of this group of people.
The word presidential means having to do with a president. Presidential libraries hold the official papers from a president's administration.
Presidential elections are when voters choose a president, often a nation's top public official. Now, when you hear the word presidential,
your English will be good enough to know what this news word means.